Hello and welcome to another episode of Grant Francis Does a Podcast. In this Mayflower Meets edition, we'll meet another star coming to the stage at the Mayflower Theatre in Southampton. This podcast is produced by the Useful Media Company, and as always, please follow, like and subscribe Grant Francis UK in all your social feeds. The Verdic, an edgy, gritty courtroom drama, comes to the Mayflower Theatre on the 18th of July. And starring in that show is an actor who's grown up through the acting ranks, but not through the usual methods. He was Matt Hawley in BBC's Casualty, Gavin Faraday in Cutting It, and Jack Grimmer in Waterloo Road. Today, we meet Jason Merrels, and I asked him first how the acting bug bit.
I suppose just watching movies, really, as a kid. I loved watching movies. And I loved, when I grew up in the 70s and 80s, there wasn't the content that there was now. So late at night, and also often in the afternoons, the schedules of stations like BBC Two were often full of old movies. So I was brought up on a diet of that, and I adored them, even though they were out of an era for me, like 40s, 30s, 20s. Also art films, kind of German films, French films that were on late at night on BBC Two, that I watched through the banisters until I was allowed to stay up later. So that was really my education into it and my imagination. I did a bit of youth theatre, I did a bit of school plays, but then I went to art school. Because that's another thing that I do, I paint and draw and always have, and that's what I went to do. But while I was there, I did a lot of drama and took stuff to Edinburgh Festival, and by the time I came out, I was working in the Fringe and sort of developing stuff and devising stuff. And within 5 years, that sort of became a kind of professional career. So my learning was on the job. I think drama schools are great. It's just that it's not the path I went down. I don't think it's the only path. And I think that if you don't go down that path, you have to be mindful of getting your training, getting your practice in, because I think the old cliche of 10,000 hours is pretty true about anything that you do. My first years of it were theatre, and theatre's always been a part of what I do. But interestingly, the actual genesis of the whole thing, I guess, was movies.
How do you feel the difference is between, TV and being on stage in the upcoming show like Verdic?
Yeah, well, theatre's just it's a different mode of delivery. I try not to get too hung up about the differences between them. It seems to me that the job is the same, that you've got to tell the truth and be as compelling a character and as interesting, make that character as interesting and well wrought as you can in both mediums. And, it's just the method of delivery. If you're in a theatre, you've got to tell that story that night because they're all fresh people that haven't seen it before, even if you've done it 1,000 times. You've got to tell it fresh, truthfully, and you've got to reach them, even if they're right up in the gods. So you need a way of expressing that fills a theatre. And when you're working on a camera, it's 2 feet away from you often. So you don't need to do that. And the method of delivery is different. And to me, it's just natural. If I'm talking to you now, I'm talking to you now. But if you were the other side of a football pitch, I'd have to shout at you, to get across what I mean, or exaggerate what I was trying to do. Exaggerate's not a very good word because you don't really want to be doing that on stage. But it's not so much exaggerating as wanting to reach. And so you make sure that what you're saying reaches people. So I like to think of it like that, really. And then, your body and your voice and your technique, for want of a better word, kick in and help you to do that, But essentially it's the same thing.
Do you feel theatre's more natural because you only get one chance?
Judi Dench, famously, I was watching an interview with her recently, and she said the great thing about it is that, and this is from her, who's amazing, is that you make mistakes, things go wrong, things don't go quite as well as they did another night in theatre, but you always get to correct it because you've got another night to do it, the next night, and another mountain to climb. And that's the nice thing about it. There's always another show, or usually there is. The last show is always quite difficult because of that. But TV's like filming is like an agreement between you and the crew and the director on when the take is good enough. And then you have to leave it for them to edit and move around and sort of manipulate as they want. So you're not in control really of that, and you have to let go of that. On stage, you're very much in control of the story that night, which is thrilling, challenging. So there are different things, but filming can be thrilling and challenging too. But it's each moment is its own piece of theatre, and you try and get it in the can. And if you're happy with it and the director's happy with it, that's done. It's a different kind of thing, because in theatre, every night you've got to climb that. Every night you've got to get there, which is challenging.
Tell me about the show, The Verdict. It's coming to the Mayflower Theatre on the 18th of July. It's a courtroom drama played out on stage.
Indeed, yeah. Well, it's a story of Frank Galvin, and it's a story of a very particular city in the US called Boston, which has a huge Irish population, not quite as big as New York, but pretty much close to, and is very Catholic, very, very white Irish Catholic. And the Catholic Church are very powerful and very rich and own a lot of the institutions of that city. I'm not sure how that is now, but it certainly was the case in 1980 when our play is set and the book is set. And Frank Galvin is a kind of washed up alcoholic lawyer, and marriage is on the skids. He's had a few court cases that went disastrous for him because he was set up by the establishment to take a fall, which wasn't his fault. So he's been a bit on his uppers, really, and he's what they call an ambulance chaser, so the lowest rung of the legal ladder, trying to tout from funeral parlours if anyone needs any legal aid. And this case comes across his desk, which is a medical malpractice case, and it's all on the road to just a good pre-trial settlement, which any other lawyer would probably take. But he goes to see the girl, and he goes to see the family, and he decides that there's something that's gone wrong here, and there's something that's been covered up. And so he decides to fight it against all the odds, against the massive institutions that control the situation, the Catholic Church, the hospitals, the money, the legal firms who are all part and parcel of the same establishment. He takes them all on against all the odds. And it's a story of his redemption, really. And it's a story of a flawed man, a flawed middle-aged man trying to do something right, one thing. And I think that's why audiences respond to it, really, because it's a hopeful story.
The reviews have been fantastic all the way through. Beautifully crafted, dramatic twists and turns. The best performance we've seen in a long time. It's a very positive view from the public, from the press, and from everyone that's gone to see it. Yeah, it's been good. It's been a real joy to do it. It's a wonderful, wonderful company. It's 15 in the company, which is quite rare these days. That's a big number. I mean, that's a big old school number. I mean, there's not a lot of money in theatre. And to tour a big production like this with a big set and a big cast is quite rare these days. Unless you're, talking about West End musicals, of course, yeah. But then there's a lot of money behind those. But yeah, it's a big cast, but it's a wonderful cast, and it really sets the scene of that city. I think beautifully drawn characters and work being done around me, which is just wonderful to be a part of, and supportive. What's your favourite line from the performance? There's one that's often the cast often repeat to me. Some of them.
which won't sound much now, but very good. It comes at a very key moment. And every time anyone has a cup of coffee now in the green room, it's like, very good. And everyone quotes it back at me. So I quite like that, because when I first read it, I don't think, well, the director, I think, was talking about it like you could easily just throw that bit away, but I've kind of taken it on and made it something, I suppose. So I quite like that.
Those just two words that you've put that amount of weight on, and you've taken that as something for the character and for you, will all become apparent when everyone sees the performance.
It's a point of very high emotion, and it's quite it's a bit of a high point of the show, I suppose. Yeah,
it's something that we ask everyone that we speak with about the performance at the Mayflower Theatre. What have you taken personally from your experience in The Verdict? What have you learnt?
I've learnt a little bit about addiction, I think, trying to work out. And he's an alcoholic. He's a serious alcoholic, Frank Galvin. And so I've been exploring what that means and how you operate and the kind of lies you tell yourself and the way that you pretend that you're coping, even though you're not really. That's been interesting. Not that I'm an addict, but I think working on that makes you self-reflect and think about your own life in a way, and maybe, things you've done. So that's been interesting. But mainly, I think what I take away is just what it means to be in a great company of people that have a shared goal, because it's been a really happy ship and very supportive group of people. That's probably going to be my biggest takeaway, I think.
The show's coming to the Mayflower Theatre on the 18th of July, and the Mayflower's, it's a huge touring theatre. It's one of the biggest auditoriums in the country, and it's known for big musicals and the sing-along classics, the brilliant West End shows.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone that's never been to an actual play to come and see The Verdict?
I'd say that it's as thrilling as anything you can see in the theatre, I think. If you don't like plays without music, that's fine, of course. But if you like a story, then this is for you. I think if you've never seen a play, this is for you. And I think if you have seen a play, it's still for you, because it's cleverly done. If you know your theatre, you'll be impressed, I hope. If you don't know your theatre, you'll still be impressed, I hope. So I don't know. That's for others to say, really, but we really believe in it. I certainly believe in it, and I think it's a really good piece of work and a really good story, well told. Who doesn't love that?
Jason, it's been very good speaking with you. Thank you for your time, and good luck with the rest of the tour.
Thank you very much.
The Verdict comes to Mayflower Theatre on the 18th of July 2023, and you can buy tickets online at mayflower.org.uk. Grant Francis Does a Podcast is a Useful Media Company production. Please like, follow and subscribe Grant Francis UK in all of your socials. Until next time, bye-bye.